Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet,
sponsored by Apple Capital Group.
At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today, I have the pleasure of having David Linenthal. He is a managing director at CFAM, which is CFAM Credit Solutions, outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Denton, Texas. If you have any questions, feel free to post a question in the chat room, or you can call in at 347-324-3460. Again, 347-324-3460. David, thank you for joining the program.
Sure, my pleasure.
Okay, I guess to talk about, this is the time people buy houses. Now, the economy just wrecked a lot of people's credit over the course of the last 4 years, from layoffs, from different circumstances that normally happen through life. And your company actually providing help to kind of rebuilding that person's credit. Not necessarily, you can say you kind of repair the credit, but we can't be, it's actually rebuilding the person's credit and allowing them to start over legally. Kind of tell us about your program there in Dallas.
Sure. Yeah, so you're right. So the segment of the population that has run into credit issues is just growing, has been growing exponentially during the past 3 to 5 years. And so the number of folks go to apply for a mortgage or an auto loan, and then they get declined or they end up being approved, but at a really high subprime rate. They're looking at their credit bureaus and saying, what can we do to clean this thing up? And so federal law and state law allow for a consumer to dispute items on their credit bureau that may be inaccurate, outdated, or unverifiable. And so that's what we do. We partner with our clients to help them evaluate their credit profile and to dispute those items that they feel are inaccurate, outdated, or unverifiable. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's what CFAM Credit Solutions does.
Okay. Kind of tell us about tell us about your business itself. How long you've been in business, and how long you guys been doing this? Yeah,
so CFAM Credit Solutions has been, this arm of the company has been in business about 6 months. We acquired certain assets from an existing credit repair company, and the ownership group, the management group that runs CFAM, has got over 75 years in the consumer credit space. And our ownership group has got guys that have started consumer finance companies. We are familiar with in working with the customer that has distressed credit. So we know this segment of the population. We understand the economics. We understand how these consumers think, struggles, and the things that they may have come across. And so we felt like, man, this is a marketplace that needs companies that are going to do credit repair with integrity. The market is full of companies that do credit repair. Most of them are mom and pop organizations doing them out of their home office. They're not licensed. They're not bonded in the states that they're doing business in. Be here today, and then tomorrow they can be gone, and the customer's left high and dry. And so we felt like there's a need for good, solid credit repair companies that are going to be around, not today, not tomorrow, but for years to come. And so that's why we entered the space.
Okay. And the company you bought was really successful in getting those issues resolved. I mean, bad things happen to good people, but people, I guess, what's so good about America, you always can repair yourself and pull yourself up and start over. It's really ironic. I remember in several conferences throughout the United States, and many celebrity entertainers, sports figures, even business leaders actually go the route of improving their score in a sense of repairing a credit because they need to get a better rate. Because if you have $1 million house, it'll make a difference on what you end up paying, or a multi-million-dollar house. That rate is 1 point rate is going to make a huge difference on what you're going to pay, if it's going to be a few hundreds or a few thousands. So it's not just the average person, mom and pop, but also celebrities do the same thing. And we had just a conference here last summer. Someone who's on national TV said, hey, to live in Los Angeles is expensive. I need to get every point I can get in order to bring my house payment down because it's expensive to live there. And he had to go to bump himself up to a certain amount. He said I had good credit, but I needed to have beyond excellent credit to get the rate I need to bring my payments down. It was really worth me investing that and doing that. So it's available to everybody. What type of process that you normally go through in the legal sense of bringing people where they need to be on their credit?
Yeah, so the way that the state laws are pretty clear on the way credit repair should be operating. And so one of the first things I would tell your listening audience is that companies that promise things like we guarantee to raise your credits up to a 700 or a 750, those are companies you want to stay away from, because really no company can make that guarantee, because credit score is based on a number of factors, and there is no magic formula for taking your score from a 500 to a 750, for example. Mm-hmm. And so you want to stay away from companies that are making outrageous promises. We guarantee to remove all derogatory credit, right? It just doesn't work that way. And so the credit repair process it can be a long and a tedious process. And most consumers don't have the time and or the energy to commit themselves to the amount of the work it takes to get your credit cleaned up. And so we work with our customers to make sure we understand what's on their credit report. And so we go over the credit bureau with the customer, and then we make sure that we're disputing items that are inaccurate, that are outdated, or that are unverifiable on their behalf. And I think your point earlier was really well spoken, that the difference in price of an APR, for example, a rate on a mortgage, can really be expensive. Just by way of example, if you were to buy a home, a $300,000 loan, if you got a $300,000 loan on a 30-year mortgage, if you were able to get a rate at about 3.6 on that loan, which would indicate good credit, to get a rate, that kind of a rate on a mortgage would indicate you've got really good credit. Your monthly principal and interest payment is going to be about $1,369 a month. Well, if your credit's not as good and you're able to get, let's say, a 5.22 rate, which is still a pretty good rate, but obviously not a 3.6, your payment's going to be about $1,651 a month. So that difference in rate is $282 a month just to go to the interest payments, principal, for having a higher rate. Well, that adds up, man. On a 30-year note, that's $101,000 of extra payments you're going to be making. We want to help those customers get their mortgage rate down from a 7 to a 5, or if they're at a 5 to a 3, because we recognize that over the course of a 30-year note, that's going to save them thousands of dollars. And so having bad credit is really expensive. And fortunately, our legal system allows consumers to dispute those items that they feel shouldn't be on their credit report.
Why do you think, I mean, some countries have their different policies, but why do you think they allow this particular law to, out of fairness to people here in America, to always rebuild ourselves? Or what happened that they passed this law so many years ago that grant us this particular option? Was it like that before?
Yeah, so no, it's not always been that way. I mean, I think the government, so say what you will about the government's efficiency and their ability to get things done, they do recognize that these three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, right, they control the lion's share of at least for consumers, they control the lion's share of whether or not credit is granted or declined. And so that has major implications on our economy at large, right? Because as our economy grows, as people buy and sell things, and as they spend money. We don't grow when people don't spend money. I also recognize that mistakes happen, that there are things that show up when you're dealing with organizations that are as large as Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Mistakes are simply going to happen. In fact, it's estimated that 80% of credit bureaus contain at least one mistake. And so odds are, if you're listening to this podcast, you have a mistake on your bureau of some kind. It could be that you've got an incorrect address, the social's wrong. There could be an account on your bureau that's not yours. Maybe there's another John Smith out there that lives in Washington, D.C., or lives in Arlington, Virginia, or wherever. And so they recognize that there has to be a mechanism in place to correct those errors because the consequences are too great. You've got bad information in your bureau. That affects a lot of things, your ability to get a loan. Certain employers may pull credit, so it can affect your ability to get a job. It can help guard against identity theft. I had my identity stolen back in 2001, and somebody opened up about a dozen accounts on my bureau, from Zales, Helzberg Diamonds, Victoria's Secret. They got a cell phone. They bought custom cabinets from a custom cabinet maker in Dallas. And so if I had no mechanism for disputing those items, all those accounts would show up on my credit bureau, and they would be in default because I wasn't going to pay for it, right? And I would be hung for 7 to 13 years by somebody else's mistake. And so that's why federal law and state law gives us the right to challenge that information, because they recognize, man, things are gonna go wrong in this process. Information is going to show up that shouldn't show up. There are bad people that will steal your identity, and you shouldn't be held responsible for that. We've got to create a mechanism by which you can get your credit bureau cleaned up.
Well, I'm hearing that also there's a fourth bureau is coming online. Of course, you have the Equifax, you have the TransUnion, and I forgot what was the third one, Experian. And there's another one that's up and coming as well. I'm not sure which one it is. I think someone mentioned in passing. But how did these credit bureaus become so large? And I know it's their best interest to report negative things because they can sell it. Is that the premise behind they want negative things really in order to sell to their clients, whatever banks they are?
Well, I don't know. So really, there's two questions there. One, how did they get to be so large, right? That question is like any other question where you've got a good product. Because the reality is, if I'm a lender, if I'm a bank or a credit union, and I want to lend money to somebody, I'd like to have some glimpse into whether or not the person that I'm considering loaning money to is likely to repay their debt. And so the concept of a credit bureau, of a place where I can get information on a consumer about how they've paid historical debts, is helpful. Things get large when there's a lack of competition in the marketplace. And the reality is those three have grown and they've continued to grow. And so now it's really hard for another credit reporting service to get in this spot, right? Because so many people are using Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. And so it's hard to make space in there. I would say that the credit bureaus, I don't know that they're incentivized to report bad data. I think they're incentivized to report data because they make money either way, right? If someone's got good credit, people are going to want to loan you money, right? If they know that you are a low risk, that information is really helpful to have. And so if I can get a list of consumers that have credit scores of 700 or higher, I can do a lot with that list. There's a lot of solicitation that can go on. I can make a lot of money off of those consumers. I can also make money if I'm a person that has this data off of consumers that don't have good credit, right? Because there are always people going to be willing to loan money to people with bad credit. Now, that money is very expensive, as you guys know. The interest rates are high. The terms may not be favorable for the consumer. And so I don't know that a credit bureau is incentivized to report negative information. I think they're incentivized to report information, and they are slow to want to change anything, right? Because that obviously costs them time and money, right? If they've got to have an employee, an employee has to do research into a single consumer's credit file, that takes time, that takes man hours, costs money. And so it's in there. They would say, I think that they would say, right, the less we have to do individual exception-based processing for our product is. And so like they are going to kind of push back against doing extra work when they're not necessarily making money directly off of that, which is the case for credit repair, right? They're not necessarily making money by getting my credit cleaned up, but they're required by law to do it. They're required by law to respond to my dispute letters within a certain number of days, or they have to remove that information. So it's like all companies trying to be as efficient as possible. And anytime you have exception-based processing, it just gets more expensive.
Great. We're going to take a minute break real quick and maybe back and talk about how your process worked with your company. Also talk about if they want to become an agent with your company as well, and talk about close out with business credit and then some last comments. So we'll take a break in a moment. We'll be back and building and repairing your personal credit.
You're listening to the Core Business Show, sponsored by Apple Capital Group. Apple Capital Group in Jacksonville, Florida, is a commercial lender that specializes in asset-based loans, equipment leasing and financing, invoice financing, commercial real estate loans, and asset-based financing in the U.S. and Canada. Apple Capital Group is a direct lender that lends on their private equity investment portfolio. 90% of most loans are decided within 2 hours, and vendor funding within 24 hours after documents are completed with a one-page application. No slow no's, just a quick decision and a fast yes. To get more information about lending from Apple Capital Group, call 866-611-7457. That's 866-611-7457 to speak with one of our loan specialists. Or visit us right now at applecapitalgroup.com. Welcome back to the Core. Once again, here's Tim DeKay.
We're back with David Linenthal, building and repairing your personal credit with CFAM. I guess tell us about if a person comes to you or comes to one of your agents. Tell us about the process and what can they expect.
Sure. So for an individual that would like to become a CFAM Credit Solution agent, right? There's, as I said earlier on our talk, the segment of the population that needs credit repair is growing. In fact, we have people in our lives, we all have people that need credit repair. And so we have folks that have decided they want to be an agent, they want to try and sell the product. And so as people sell credit repair, they're able to earn commission on that sale. And so the way that a person can become an agent with CFAM, they can send an email. If they want to do that, they can do that at info, I-N-F-O, at cfamcredit.com. That's C, F as in Frank, A as in Apple, M as in Mary, cfamcredit.com, info at cfamcredit.com. They can send an email and say, hey, I'm interested in becoming an agent. And we will email them. We have an application process. That's a fairly standard application. We run a background check. We want to make sure that our agents are representing the company well and are not have not recently been convicted of white-collar credit fraud crimes. And then there's a training process that we're going to train them. We're going to make sure they understand how credit repair works, how our processes work, and then we're going to set them free just to go sign up agents and support them as they go about doing that.
Okay. And for the consumer itself that works with a particular agent or work with your particular company, can I tell us what they can expect in the process? How long does it take for them to repair their credit, if you don't mind?
No, it's a great question. So if you're a consumer signing up for credit repair, here's what you can expect. Once you fill out the online application, or we can do it by paper, you're going to get a phone call from one of our dedicated customer service reps. And they're going to go over any questions you may have about the process. They're going to explain to you how it works. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to help you order your credit bureau, because you got to order your credit bureaus. We have to know what's on there in order to dispute it. And so we'll help you order all three of those credit bureaus, one from Experian, one from TransUnion, one from Equifax. Once those credit bureaus come in the mail, they'll be sent to the customer, right, at the customer's address. The customer needs to send those bureaus to us. They can fax them, they can scan them, they can mail them, although that takes a little bit longer. And then once we get the bureaus, we're going to call the customer. We'll go over their credit. We'll make sure they understand what's on their bureau. We'll make sure we understand what they would like us to dispute, what items they feel like are inaccurate, outdated, or unverifiable. And then we will begin the process of disputing for the customer. Our contract for most states is a 12-month contract. Some states only allow 6-month contracts. And so we will do a 6-month contract that automatically renews at month 7 at no additional charge. And so basically all of our customers get 12 months of unlimited disputing. We'll dispute that process as many times as we can in that period of time to get their credit cleaned up. And then we work with the customer throughout that 12 months. You'll be hearing from us regularly throughout your process with updates on what items are being cleaned up, where we're stuck, where we need more information from the consumer in order to move forward. And so it becomes sort of a back and forth dance for 12 months between us and between the customer. And if there's an agent involved, we always want to keep the agent as well, the person that sold that, the sales agent on that deal. We want to keep them in the loop as well. And so it's a back and forth for 12 months. Now, how long does credit repair take? Well, it depends. And as I said earlier, there are certain things you can't guarantee. And so we're not going to guarantee, hey, in 6 months, we'll have all your stuff cleaned up, because no company can guarantee that. So what we do guarantee is, hey, we're going to try as hard as we can for 12 months to get your credit cleaned up. And you're only signing up for 12 months. We're incentivized to get you as much progress made in 12 months. Some companies just do a month to month. And so there really is no end date. You're going to pay a monthly fee forever. And so my question will be, what's the incentive for the credit repair company to really focus on your credit repair? If they're making money every month, and at some point, we want to get you out of the program. We want to get your credit cleaned up and let you move on with your life. And so that's why we do a 12-month program.
Okay. And regarding, I know you're listening to BBB, and you mentioned, I think, a license. Do you have to have a license for the states, or you bonded?
Yeah. So, most states require, all states require that you be a licensed company with the Secretary of State. Some states require that a company be bonded. And so the states that we are in business in are the states that we are currently licensed and bonded and ready to go, which is another thing, right? You have a lot of mom and pop shows that are not licensed. And so they're doing business in the states that they shouldn't be. They're not bonded. They don't have the right insurance policy that the state requires. And so we are working to do credit repair in a manner that's ethical and that is legal, which is, unfortunately, in the industry, it can be more of an exception than the norm.
Okay. And when you're talking about the bonded, that bond normally covers what type of issues?
Well, the states are different, right? Some states require that we have a $10,000 or a $12,000 or a $25,000 bond on file, and that just protects the consumer from any potential losses. So it's like an insurance policy, basically.
Okay.
And we have to have it with the state, with the bondholder, and it's a fairly it's a fairly normal process for doing business, but it does cost money, right? And so there is a cost to doing credit repair legally and ethically. But we feel like that one of the ways we can separate ourselves from the competition, from the thousands of mom and pop, non-licensed, non-bonded credit repair companies, is to follow the law and to be legal and to be ethical and to do it the right way so that we're not getting in trouble down the road. That'll ensure we're going to be around for a while.
Okay. So in that process itself, if a person has a bankruptcy, has some negative issues on their credit, can you talk about that? Because those are sometimes they put by error, sometimes they put by a spouse, and that person didn't file. How can you actually go and challenge that's been incorrect?
Well, so again, I don't want to reveal too much of our secret sauce, right? But yeah, you were allowed to challenge those items. And so when we have a customer that says, listen, I've got, there's a bankruptcy in my bureau, but it's not mine. It's my ex-husband or my ex-wife's bankruptcy, or it could be any account. Let's say that it's in the instance of a divorce. You've got a gal that in the divorce proceedings, the husband got the car and he also got the car note.
Sure.
It's still showing up on her credit bureau, right? There's processes by which we'll work with the credit bureaus and we'll send them the documentation they need to demonstrate that you are reporting this trade line, this account incorrectly. You should not be reporting it this way. And we'll work with them to get that information removed.
Perfect. In closing, any advice that you normally will have if a consumer or an agent is looking for a company like yours to come on with?
So we are an entrepreneurial company, and so many of our agents have that entrepreneurial spirit, that drive and that determination to go be successful and to go blaze their own trail. And so we think the agents that have done the best in our program, that have made the most money, that have helped most people, have been those agents that are go-getters. They don't need someone telling them at all points in the day what they need to be doing. They're folks who are not afraid to hear no, right? Because like in a lot of sales jobs, right, you got to do a lot of work to close that sale. So someone with really thin skin is probably not going to be successful at any sales job. And so we're looking for folks that are go-getters, that have the determination and the drive to sell, and then who also recognize they're going to be really well compensated for doing that. And so I would say, listen, if you feel like that describes you and you're looking for a way to increase your income, then give us a call or send us an email at the info@cfamcredit.com email address and let us explain the process to you. And you can decide for yourself if you feel like the time investment is worth the financial outcome. We obviously think it is. Our commission for our agents is very high. We pay more than, as far as I know, more than any other credit repair company pays their affiliates. And so we want to share in the blessing of doing a job well done. And so we're not trying to be the most expensive credit repair. We want our pricing to be affordable for our customers. We want our agents to do well. So give us a call or shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to talk with you and help you get signed up.
Okay. And one last question. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you're a consumer and you're listening and you recognize that you've got some stuff on your credit bureau that's probably not correct, man, go to our website, cfamcreditsolutions.com, and right there on the homepage, there's a Get Started Today box. Fill that out and start the process today of cleaning up your credit. We'll get working on it. We can get working on it today for folks that sign up.
Perfect. And they have that for a whole year, the plan for the whole year.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. For example, I know you have training. If a person's coming on who's looking for, you have weekly training sessions for them, or what type of support system you normally offer for the agents coming on?
Yeah, for our agents, we do have a weekly training call, and where we do share best practices, things that are working, things that are not working. We've even started doing some additional training call this morning with some of our agents on just ways to increase sales, non-regularly scheduled call. And so we've got our weekly calls. We're available for our agents. So if you called me and said, I'm having some problems, can you help me? Absolutely. If you were to go visit a car dealership that you're trying to, as an agent, sign up, and you say, hey, I've been visiting this car dealership and I think they're close to beginning to send us leads, I'm happy to follow up as the managing director and try and support you in any way that I can. I'll be that quote unquote corporate voice. Sometimes people like to hear from the corporate office. And so I'll make those calls and support you in any way I can. When our agents request new collateral materials and they want a flyer that they feel like we don't have a flyer out there that really scratches the itch they're trying to scratch, we'll create that collateral for them so they can use it. So we definitely want to support our agents in any way we can, for sure.
Perfect. And tell us your website address, how we can contact you, and telephone number.
Yeah, so the website address is www.cfamcredit. That's C, Charlie, F, Frank, A, Apple, M, Mary. FamCreditSolutions.com is our website. And you can, from the website, you can sign up for credit repair online, go through the whole process. If you're an agent, you can always call. If you're interested in becoming an agent or want to call us, you can call us at area code 903-786-7100. That's 903-786-7100. We also have a toll-free number for those people who don't have free long distance, which is 888-471-8371. 888-471-8371. And you can call us, let us know you've got questions or concerns. From the website, you can sign up online. There's also a place where you can ask questions. There's a Contact Us page where you can fill in your name and contact information and ask whatever question you have, and we'll get back to you quickly on that as well. So, yeah, we're definitely accessible. We're on Twitter as well at CFAMCredit. Twitter at CFAMCredit. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook as well.
Okay. And you can be an agent in another state as long as you're within the United States as well, right?
Yeah. You can be. We accept agents in all states. Now, we're not licensed in all 50 states. As I mentioned earlier, we're trying to be very proactive, very purposeful with our licensing. So you can be licensed in any state, though we may not be licensed in your particular state. So if you want to become an agent, call us, and we'll talk you through what states we're licensed in, and you can determine for yourself if you feel like it's an opportunity you want to jump on board with.
Okay. Anything in Canada, or is it just U.S. right now?
No, right now it's just the U.S. We're just working in the U.S.
Okay, perfect. Well, David, thank you for coming on to the program.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. You can download this episode on the iTunes on Blog Talk Radio. Again, that was David Linenthal. He is with CFAM Solutions in Denton, Texas, which is outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's a suburb. You can go to his website to get more information. I gave that information also. You can give him a call at 907-786-7100, 903-786-7100, 903-786-7100. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to the program today. Again, it's been another production of the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. Thank you for listening. And we do ask you can download this show on Blog Talk Radio Network, also iTunes, or under syndication. But we ask you that if you do go to iTunes or on Blog Talk Radio, please just write a review, how you like this particular, if you don't mind, and that kind of gives us feedback if we're doing the right thing or if we're going in the right direction. Thank you for listening. Everybody have a great day. Tim Jacquet with the Core Business Show. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For more information about equipment financing and asset-based loans, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. Or call us at 866-611-7457. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. And thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.